The iPhone SE, aka Apple's attempt at producing a phone that doesn't completely roger your savings into oblivion. Although it's pretty clear their hearts weren't really in it, given they basically just grabbed up a whole bunch of defunct tech and kind of mashed it together, like a desperate man trying to cobble together a meal from the remnants he found in his cupboard. Lumpy mayonnaise on stale crackers, my favourite. And it's still marginally better than a Jamie Oliver recipe, and that I've only vomited blood twice. But yeah, Apple has clearly proven that it simply can't do budget tech. The iPhone SE3 was already looking laughably tired and out of date when it came out 3 bloody years ago, and the cheeky f***ers are still charging 429 quid for it. It's like if Disney came up with a budget-friendly version of its theme parks, which was basically just a concrete yard with a whole bunch of those old metal hoops on sticks, what kids used to play with before PlayStations and TikTok were a thing. Hours of fun for the whole f***ing family. I'm honestly wondering how long it'll be before Apple launches a Vision Pro SE, which costs a mere £1,000 and is basically a used bog roll which you kind of squint down to see a crudely drawn picture of Tim Cook giving you the finger. And the truth is that Apple just don't want you buying budget stuff. They want to absolutely rinse you for every last shiny penny and leave nothing behind but a deflated husk. And on that cheery thought, let's have a bit of a squint at the upcoming iPhone SE4. Techspert Weekly! So from early internet chat on the iPhone SE4, it sounded like Apple would basically be reusing the old iPhone 14 design for this latest, not too stupidly expensive version of its improbably popular phony slab. However, this week these rumours were suddenly thrown deep down into a pit of doubt, and basically kicked right in the cock by the supposed leak of an upcoming iPhone SE4 case. And from that camera cutout, it appears that Apple's just sticking with the old iPhone 8 or 8 Plus design for the SE4, as that was the last Apple blower to have a camera arrangement that would actually fit that kind of gap. At a quick glance, it appears that that cutout would fit the horizontal camera arrangement of the iPhone 8 Plus, but of course, you're going to have to accommodate the camera flash as well, so it's probably just going to stick with a single camera lens arrangement, just like the iPhone SE3, which of course we know and adore. And this case also reveals a space for an old school mute switch, so don't expect an upgrade to that more modern action button. Although in happier news, the iPhone SE4 also appears to be missing that god-awful new camera button which Apple slapped on its latest iPhones, thank f***ing Beelzebub. Honestly, given a choice between that camera button and Apple forcing us to own another U2 album, I'd probably choose the latter, slightly less misery-inducing. And yes, Apple will be forced by EU regulations to slap another Type-C USB port on this thing, so no more god-awful Lightning port shenanigans. It's absolutely one blast from the past that can stay buried under the patio right next to our neighbour's excessively yappy dog. But what this leaked case doesn't tell us is, will Apple stick with a Touch ID fingerprint sensor for the iPhone SE4, or will they rip that right out to make room for a front fill-in screen? Albeit one with a notch the size of Northampton, for a bit of Face ID action instead. Most leaks point to Face ID being added to the iPhone SE4 instead, which certainly makes sense if Apple doesn't want a phone that already looks over half a decade out of date when it's fresh out the friggin' gates. It's just a shame they never bothered figuring out in-display fingerprint sensors. Meanwhile, other iPhone SE4 rumours point to LG being in charge of crafting the phone's 6.1-inch screen. And yes, it's actually an OLED panel this time, which is a massive relief, because the iPhone SE3's IPS display was basically like aids for your eyes. I mean, those visuals were only a tiny step up from cave paintings. And speaking of tiny, that screen was so stupidly small it could only really be comfortably used by an ant. Well, no such troubles from the new one apparently, and as for that craptastic 12meg camera from the iPhone SE3, well, that's apparently been upgraded to a 48meg shooter for this fresh generation. Possibly the very same 48meg camera sensor that was stuffed inside of the iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max. And you can expect the iPhone SE4 to be powered by Apple's A18 chipset, like Apple's most recent slab, the iPhone 16. So it should be able to handle anything you chuck at it, including the latest round of games. And those web whisperings reckon that the iPhone SE4 will also support a bit of Apple Intelligence, although at the time I shot this Apple Intelligence was still missing, presumed a bit shit. And here's hoping the battery life has improved remarkably since the iPhone SE 3, which lasted only about as long as me on your mum's OnlyFans page. And you can also expect a bit of MagSafe wireless charging support. Now the iPhone SE 4 is expected to launch in early 2025, probably around March time, so only 5 bastard months away. And hopefully that's enough time to get absolutely blind steaming drunk so I forget that I've even reviewed it. As for the price, well, it's Apple, so you can expect to cough up at least $500,000 for the basic 128 gig model. So what are your feelings towards the iPhone SE 4? Are you excited, intrigued, highly aroused? Definitely let us know your level of horniness for this phone down in the comments below. And now it's time for the part of the show that makes a hoop on a stick look like a bloody good time. It's viewer comments. Viewer comments. Let's start off this week with Jonathan Port. You read Jonathan, who says, no idea what he's on about. I do get that rather a lot, and to be perfectly honest, it's probably for the best. On the subject of King Kong, 1933 edition, Slaphead says, these American explorers went halfway around the world, risking their lives on an island full of dinosaurs, and what do they bring back? A feckin' big version of a monkey that they could just go and see at their local zoo. Oh yeah, that's another perfectly good point as well. They basically had a ready-made Jurassic Park right there at the fingertips, the silly bastards. It's kind of like if you went to all the trouble of tracking down the lost city of Atlantis, and then all you brought back to our world was a slightly oversized goldfish. I know we had quite a few people helpfully pointing out my f*** of the week in the comments before, so it's time to bring back that jingle, huzzah. Gaff of the week. So last week I apparently said that Xiaomi smartphones run Harmony OS. I'm sorry to hear you've been having such a rough time with it. I mean, personally I've found that Harmony OS... Oh boy, lol. Yeah, that's obviously more bollocks than a beefeater meets pie. The Huawei smartphones of course run Harmony OS. Xiaomi's is Hyper OS. Gonna absolutely blame that on the whiskey rather than the fact that I know all about tech. Brady21 Plays Indie Horror says, when you say nerd pants, do you actually mean no pants? I may very well be going pantless for this very video, and indeed every video that I shoot. It means less washing, which is not only less effort, but also more environmentally friendly, so I'm saving the planet one free swinging sausage at a time. Krish K31 Nerd says, I saw some leaks of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 4 and it was absolutely insane on the GPU side, while also a little more power efficient compared with the previous generation. So imagine the insane performance gains with the Nubia Red Magic's active cooling designs. Yeah, it's definitely the gaming phones which I get most excited about when it comes to new chipsets from Qualcomm and from MediaTek as well, because as you say, those phones are absolutely set up to rinse every last drop of power from these things. We'll see how the ROG phones and the Red Magics turn out. And also on the subject of chipsets, Jason C says there's already some hands-on reviews of the Dimensity 9400 and it's shaping up to be good. If the Snapdragon 8 Gen 4 is even better than that, then it's going to be a good year for mobile devices. Yeah, hopefully. I'm hoping we get some more interesting, exciting technical feats chucked into some of our smartphones next year as well, and it's not just the same stuff but a bit beefier, but we shall see. And Jason continues, P.S. Uncle Spurt sporting Junji Ito on his shelf is... Yeah, that is one f***ed up dude right there. Absolutely love the Junji Ito stuff, but I do need to expand my collection a bit because I've basically got Uzumaki and Tommy, and that is it so far. So if anyone's got any recommendations for more bucks of his I can grab, he's got quite an extensive catalogue by the looks of it. Alecria says, my OnePlus 11 suddenly feels old when I hear that the 8 Gen 4 is already around the corner. And Andrew Hall says, just paid £699 for a OnePlus 12 in the Amazon Prime members sale, so I'll be sticking with that for a while. And Gregor589 says, I'm a happy OnePlus 12 owner. I do hope that the 13 comes with a flat screen. Not that I will update now, I'll wait a few years. Yeah, quite a lot of OnePlus owners commenting they're happy with their purchase, and rightly so, because yeah, I've got my SIM stashed back inside the OnePlus 12 doing a long-term review, and it's an absolute banger of a smartphone. Definitely they've been back on form the last couple of years. So yeah, no need to hoy this stuff in the bin and upgrade to the latest generation just because it's got that 8th gen form. I mean, these things are still perfectly beefy. And of course, you've got that long, dedicated software support as well, so even less reason to upgrade. And likewise, Merfan says, been using the Nothing Phone 2 with the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 for about a year, and it's more than enough for my daily usage. I don't have the need to update anytime, at least for another 5 years or so, I think. Yeah, Nothing Phone 2, another great phone, which I also did a long-term review of earlier this year. And the only thing about that is the software support will run dry in about another 2-3 years. I think it's good up until about Android 16, that one, and then an extra year of security support, and then that's basically it. And Yupin Quid says, I'm here just waiting to see what the Nothing Phone 3 will get. Well, not the 8 Gen 4, I suspect, because Colpay normally opts for a more modest chipset, shall we say, in order to keep the general price below other flagships. There's been a lot of web chat about the Nothing Phone 3 being powered by the Snapdragon 8S Gen 3, which was the slightly more pared down version of the flagship 8 Gen 3. I'm kind of hoping they just go with the 8 Gen 3 because that's got the more up-to-date GPU. Although who knows, they might just say f it and go with MediaTek like they did for the Nothing Phone 2As. TJ379 says, when is Mr. Wangsock going for his procedure? At this rate, he might sue you. Well, good news, kiddies. My polyester pal has full sight again. Ah, all the better for seeing the curry stains in your beard, you rancid, festering sack of arse gravy. And Nemec Kale says, why don't you have a review for the Xiaomi 14? I bet you a tenner I do. There you go, one crisp tenner please. Or maybe just use it to buy yourself lessons on typing things into a search bar. Next up, Mythic Sons says tinnitus is the American pronunciation of tinnitus. I hope you're proud of yourself. Never a day in my life, buddy. My default state is basically overwhelming shame. RGF 1998 says tinnitus sucks. I've been dealing with it since 2011. Sometimes it's so loud I don't understand how I can hear anything else. Eesh, that sounds like a lot worse than mine. Mine, at absolute worst, is usually like an irritating background whine. Apparently there's some kind of necklace thing that you can wear that spaffs out white noise and somehow in some magical voodoo way counters the tinnitus. I've got no idea if it actually works, but it certainly sounds tempting. Next up, Shank73 says, "Hey up, Drunkle Spurt. As always, loving your work. Quick question. While I love my Pixel Watch 2, it looks a bit shit with the suit. I've got my eye on the Withens ScanWatch 2 or a Citizen CZ Gen 2. I always thought that the Pixel Watch looked alright with a suit because it's not flamboyant design or anything, it's quite minimalist, but then, I mean, look at me, I've got the fashion sense of a blind orangutan. The ScanWatch is an absolute banger, highly recommend those bad boys because they look like an actual proper nice watch and the battery lasts like a full month on a single charge, no worries. And better make this the last one, kiddies, because your Uncle Spurt's got to bugger off into London to do a good bit of top quality drinking. So Garfield JGR Blackman says, I do hope I can still see you in the next 10 years or so yapping on about smartphones. If you do retire, please have your own apprentice ready to replace you. Thanks. I mean, I'm under no illusions here. Basically, anyone could sit in this chair and do this job as long as they've got at least a mediocre knowledge of consumer tech. They like a drink and they know how to work a bloody sock puppet. Ah, and if they didn't have breath like Satan's post-Vindaloo farts, that would also be blasey lovely. So anyway, a massive, huge, enormous thank you to everyone who commented last week. Lots of fun going through those. As always, please do leave your comments in the commenty box thing down below. You know how this YouTube shenanigans works. And we'll have a good old hard squint at those next week. And speaking of next week, what the f*** is next week? Next week, no big launches in the diary, but Uncle Spurt will be working hard to update some of those best of roundups that I've not really been properly looking after recently. Gotta say, it's been so bloody busy that I've neglected some of them. But yeah, best smartwatches update coming, and I am going to do that bloody best launches update, I swear to f***ing buggery. Again, if you've got any recommendations for any launches, as well as Junji, Ito, Bucks, and all that stuff, definitely let us know. In the meantime, have yourselves a fan-bloody-tastic weekend. Thanks again for watching this shower of shit to the bitter end, and see you all on the flip side. I love you!